Hello and welcome to the Peaceful Empowerment Work Show. We are live at WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. I am your co-host Judy Forder, and I am here with my co-host in peace, Miss
Kris Burke. Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody. And before we get started, if you enjoy the show and would like to support our desire to share peace, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Nothing discussed today constitutes legal, financial, or medical advice. Should you seek legal, financial, or medical advice, consult a professional in that specific field directly. Today's topic: peaceful partnerships aren't just for the perfect couple.
I love this one. I mean, I love the ball. I think I say that every week, don't I? Like,
Well,
I love this topic. Yeah,
we do love them all.
yeah, it's true.
Okay, so where to begin? Where to begin?
Yeah, well, I know what comes up for me is that Judy and I have experience with this because we've been partnering on Peaceful Empowerment Works and Masterful U, along with one other woman for years. And then we've had people kind of come and go, and then so we've had some experience with partnership and trying to get to this place of how do we have partnership that feels good, that's where there's enough trust and respect that we can be kind and honest, even when it gets uncomfortable, even when we're worried, because as we know, having grown up in this world in our good old battleground mindset, um, we have a lot of reason to be afraid to tell people our truth.
Yeah, and you pinned it perfectly when we were, preparing for the show. You said socially acceptable programmed interactions. That's how we
Yeah,
know how to function. And it's a lot of fancy words for, they're ways that we have been taught either through example or through the spoken word, what's acceptable out there and what isn't. And a lot of us learned growing up because of survival techniques that you keep your truth very close to your chest and you don't share that with anyone.
hmm
And if you don't know something, you fake it till you make it. And if somebody's asking you if you know how to do something and you don't, you say yes and learn how to do it later.
right, right. Yeah. In fact, isn't it interesting how we talk about our truth, and now we talk about it because we're very much in touch with, we can ask, is that true for me? And we can feel it in our bodies. Like if it's not true, we ask a whole other series of questions. If it is true, it's like, okay, that's true. I'm going to trust that. But there was a time when we first started partnering, I didn't know what my truth was. You know, my truth might be that I felt threatened. I mean, there were meetings where I would sit talking about the vision, this beautiful vision, and I would be crying because people would be making faces, and not Judy, but people would be making faces and sometimes getting really aggressive when I was trying to share something really sweet from my heart. And boy, that was a confusing time. And I think we learned, and it was a great learning opportunity because that helped us to really learn like, wow, um, partnership only works if what, Judy?
If we are confident in who we are and we can trust our truth, because that's what you're doing. You're checking in as words are being spoken. And Kris is a big vision person. And I'll be the first to admit that sitting in those early meetings, I had no freaking clue what she was talking about. I could feel it was very important. And I was terrified that she was going to find out that I had no clue what she was talking about. So I would
Right.
smile and I would nod and I'd be like, yes, yes. Energetically, again, I knew it was important, but I
Mhm.
was terrified she was going to figure out I was a fraud.
Right. Right. Exactly. And that's so important because I would say, I really want to know what you think because part of co-creation, and just to be clear, it's not like I was all evolved and had it all figured out. I wasn't. But I knew that we were co-creating. I knew that I couldn't do this on my own. It was about collaboration. It was about connection. So one person doing that on their own is just stupid, right? So I knew we had to figure out, and I learned really quickly, like, wow, I don't have the real kind of connection that feels collaborative and unconditional and where I really trust that everybody's being in integrity all the time. I was so used to people saying one thing and meaning something else or doing something else that I was always trying to figure out, what do they really mean? What do they really mean?
What's the
Um,
secret agenda?
yes. What is the secret agenda? Yeah, absolutely. Now, how are you going to co-create something if everybody's got a secret agenda? Half the people aren't even aware they have one. And when you ask them to share their opinion, they're like, yeah, that's fine. Or they go to battle with you, right? Or they start telling you where you're wrong. Because in that battleground model that we talked about in the last show, and if you haven't seen that, you'd want to go to masterfulu.com/get your map, and you'll get access to the map yes, thank you. You'll get access to this map and also the map that talks about the left-hand side of this map being the battleground, operating in the energy of a battleground.
Perfect.
There we go. Look at that, like a wizardry. Yeah, really competitive and believing and worrying, and there's judgment. So somebody says something, I would say something about the vision, and people would sit there going, do I agree with that or do I disagree with that?
Yeah, and one of the big things, you came into this with the intention of win, win, win.
Mhm.
And I mean, we started working together on this 5 years ago now,
Yeah.
4 or 5 years ago. And win, win, win was foreign to a
Mhm.
lot of people because we've been conditioned to believe that in order for me to win, somebody has to lose.
Right.
So you would say win, 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 and people would like sit there with eyes glassed over, like, "Pfft, yeah, really? Like that's something."
It's
And she
so
lived
true.
in the clouds.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You
I got accused of being a daydreamer. Or I'd have people say, "Oh, that sounds so good. Yeah, where do I sign up?" And then they're like, "Where's the business plan? And what's the split?"
Yeah,
It's like, "What?"
what's in it for me? What's in
Yeah,
it
what
for me?
right. What's in it for me? Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's been 5 years of growing and evolving and healing together
Yeah.
to get to the point where, just this week we had a meeting and Kris said something and it triggered the little girl in me. And she knows by now that when that wall comes up and the defender comes out, it's because my little girl's triggered. And there wasn't anything aggressive said. It was just, well, I see it as this way and blah, blah, blah. And as I'm saying it, I knew that it was because I was triggered. And it wasn't because, Kris was trying to pull anything over or anything like that. She wasn't being disrespectful. So I knew what was happening. Kris knew what was happening, but we had a safe place for it to play out,
Yep. Yeah.
and that's where the kindness and respect came in.
Yeah.
She was honoring my little girl.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because I use the word ouchie to talk about some of our childhood wounds that just popped in. I'd forgotten what it was, but it just popped in. Like I used the word ouchie. And I was really talking about the inner child within each of us that frankly has been carrying some wounds for a long time and not had a lot of support for how do I deal with this? How do I heal this? And so the word ouchie came out, and it was in no way um,
Belittling.
condescending.
Uh-uh.
Yeah, it wasn't condescending. It was really, it came out in the energy of sweetness from me. And it happened to touch off something in Judy where it didn't feel sweet in that moment. And so when she said something to me about, is that condescending or something? And I asked myself, and this is where the trust and respect comes from, right? Is that I asked myself, am I being condescending? Like, what is the true energy behind this? And I thought, no, I'm recognizing the suffering and wanting to be comforting. That doesn't mean I'm using the right word for that, but that's actually the energy that I'm feeling. And so then I thought, and Judy knows I wouldn't be condescending, right? That was the second piece. Like, I trust her and I trust our relationship enough that I know that she doesn't really think that I'm being condescending. And so like, oh, let's just play this out.
Mhm.
Right. So we just kept talking. And within, I don't know, a minute, we were laughing.
Mhm. Because I was able to verbalize the voice in my head that was saying, "Now, come on, you know that there's more to this than ouchie. What is happening?" Well, my one and only child is leaving for college next week, so my little girl is stirred up. There's a lot of stuff going on, and that was ouchie invited her to come out a little bit.
Yeah. Yes. Which actually is healing, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely,
So
absolutely.
we tend to think like, oh, I don't want to cry in front of somebody, or I don't want to, have a little snarkiness, or, any of the things. I don't want to get defensive in front of people. But actually, what we really need are those safe places where we can do that. And people just love us anyway,
Mhm.
because it's part of the human experience. And when we try to hide it from one another, what kind of partnership can you have?
Not one based in truth.
No. And I know I've had business partners before, over the years. And it would be like we would have interactions at work, and things would get said and people would get their feelings hurt, and or question their integrity or their agenda or whatever it is. And what do? Sit there in the discomfort and ask them about it so you can resolve it and figure out what's happening? No, you go talk to your friends about it and work it up into a drama,
Mhm. Because
right?
that's socially acceptable.
Right.
That
Right.
those programmed interactions, don't face it. And then, you've been conditioned to dislike conflict. Well, it doesn't have to be everything. Just because we don't agree doesn't mean there's a conflict.
Right.
It means it's an opportunity for us to be curious and see where each other is coming from.
Yes. Yes. And that's
And
so key. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Just that trust and respect. When you do fundamentally have that trust and respect, then you can let your defenses down and you can seek to really understand where the other person is coming from once you have trust and respect.
Mhm.
But until you have trust and respect, and it's not something, we recommend, like just walk in and trust people. Trust and respect, they are earned.
And the
Um,
thing is, trust first is you asking the question, how does that feel to me?
right.
Whether it's you're questioning something that you've said yourself or you're questioning something that you've been told. Because
Right.
especially in the crazy chaos of the world today, the only thing we can trust is our truth. So you have to ask the questions
Right.
to yourself first. Because if you don't trust you, how can you trust anybody else?
That's right. Yeah.
That's ground level stuff right there.
Yeah. It absolutely is. Yeah. And, it's coming up now to talk about that connection to our relationships at home, our partnerships at home, right? Because the exact same principles apply no matter where we are when if we're wanting to just relate to people, like, oh, I have to talk to the cashier at the grocery store because that's part of the process of getting my food home. That's one thing. But if I'm really going to spend time with people and interact with them and work towards shared purpose in some way, then it's really important that we take the time to build a partnership. And every partnership has the same basic building blocks, like Judy just said, that core foundation. It has to have that. And without it, we are just walking through our old scripts. Or what were the words that you said in the beginning? I know we talked about it yesterday.
Socially acceptable programmed interactions.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
And just for fun, you can actually, even with the cashier, like, step out of those programs. Like, if you're really wondering, how real are these programs? Um, try stepping out of them. Just say something unexpected. I mean, always kind and respectful, but
Mhm.
say unexpected things. Wear an unexpected hat, or, something like that, and notice how it throws people off,
Mhm.
because we're so used to just unconsciously kind of going through the, how are you? I'm fine, good, have a nice day. Terrible weather, isn't it? Like, we're so used to just going through that interaction that's been programmed and practiced so much, that if you just shake it up a little bit, people look at you like you're an alien who suddenly landed.
I always laugh when people complain about, yeah, I asked so and so, hey, how you doing? And they actually told me. What is that?
Yes.
The
Yes.
programmed response is good. How are you? You know,
Yes.
everybody keeps it very surface. But when somebody actually says how they're doing, people are like, wait, whoa, that's not how this works.
Exactly. Exactly. That's not the deal. You're supposed to say fine. You're
Mm,
supposed to grin and bear it and say everything is fine.
yeah.
And then when you get alone with that trusted person, who usually we have one or two people that we're comfortable going into despair with, right? Then we share, like, okay, what's all the despairing stuff that you collected today or this week or whatever? And we go into that place, and that's actually where we get, that's what we have for nourishment.
It also
Um,
goes the other way, too, though. There are many times that people's lives are rocking and rolling and going great. And
yeah,
because maybe that person that is asking, how you doing? Their life isn't going as well. They put a dimmer switch on their joy and they just say, yeah, everything's fine.
yes,
So
absolutely.
it goes both ways. And it's important that we allow people to see us living in our joy because it invites them to do the same.
Yeah, yes. Oh, that's such a good point. Yeah, and people will be. A lot of people may react by feeling jealous if they're having a hard time, they're struggling with things, and you seem to be on top of the world, but only because they don't know that they can create a top of the world experience for themselves. It's
Mhm.
because in that battleground um, model or construct, we've been taught that there are some people who, for whatever reasons, we just can't possibly know. Life tends to work for them. They're happy. They're the fortunate few. And everybody else, well, you just got to suck it up and hope for the best, knowing that the worst is coming. It's that kind of model. But once you find out, so if you see one of those people who's, wow, you're on top of the world, your instant natural response is to compare your situation to their situation. You're going to end up feeling bad about yourself. There's not really any way around that. However, once you find out, wow, they're learning, that person knows how to stay in that positive energy. They know how to let go of the things that are dragging them down, the struggling and the suffering, and they're learning how to hold the possibilities and to see themselves as worthy, um, capable and worthy. Then that's the kind of energy we want to hang out with, and we want to learn from it.
Yeah. My nephew, we laugh. My sister says he Forrest Gumps his way through life.
Right.
He's not a worrier. He doesn't expect anything to go wrong because it's just the way it's supposed to be. The right way
Mhm,
is the right way, and
mhm.
things are going to be fine, and everything will be as it's supposed to be. And he's 20, I think he just turned 24 or 25. And I mean, it's working for him.
Yeah,
It always has.
yeah,
And then his sister is a big worrier. So it drives her insane that he Forrest Gumps his way through life, and she worries about everything.
yes,
So And for the longest time, I'm not going to lie, people in the family were like, ah, Jack, you lucky ass. And now we're paying attention to being like, hey, we need to live more like Jack.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Gosh, worry. Um, we think about, vibrationally, we're attracting more of the level of vibration that we're at, right? So if we go back to the map for a minute, just to ground the four quadrants, um, and the map, just to ground this vibrationally. There, thank you. And so I talk about a vibration, when you're feeling really ashamed, think about how like low you feel, how little energy you have, right? There's no desire to do anything fun, or when we're in shame or humiliation, we don't even want to feel better. I mean, people can try to cheer us up and we're resisting that because we're really at that really heavy vibration that doesn't feel good, but we're vibrating there. That's where we're stuck, until we take some action. So at any of these different emotional levels, there's a vibration that goes with it, and there's also thoughts and feelings and actions that we're going to take. So if we want to be in that state of love and reverence, or even neutrality, trust, willingness and optimism, we need to be at that vibration in order for our experience to show up and present people in situations that are at that vibration.
Yeah, and I feel like I can hear people out there being like, I thought this was about partnerships and relationships. And of course it is. But the most important peaceful partnership is the one you have with yourself.
Hmm.
Because when you are at peace with you and your relationship with yourself is peaceful, then that is what you put out there. That's what you promote. That's what you invite in.
Yeah.
When I learned Reiki, the very one of the very first things you learn is the most important person you're ever going to put your hands on is you.
Mhm.
You have to nurture and develop your relationship with you so that you are confident, so that you are trusting and honoring yourself. You're showing yourself kindness, being
Yes.
truthful. You know, one of the hardest, most difficult pills for me to swallow was I create my own reality.
Right.
It was like, yay, I create my own reality. Then it was like, oh shit, I create my own reality.
Yeah. Yeah. What have I been doing? Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And it's
coming,
interesting. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, coming to that and understanding that as Kris and I have been working together and, with our other Masterful U cohorts, um, showing up and being authentic, it's something that has evolved. It wasn't something that was immediately there. It wasn't something that we were like, oh, we're going to collaborate. Boom, everybody shows up and you're your true self, because we're discovering who our true authentic self is.
That's
We're
right.
peeling the layers of all the programmed conditioning to find out who we really are.
Yeah. Yeah, and there were some of us who were in zone 1, right? So if I'm in zone 1, if that's where I'm operating fundamentally, then I feel like a victim. And if I feel like a victim, I need a perpetrator, right? So if I'm going to be working with and attracting partners who are in that zone 1 or zone 2 experience, either of those. And the zone 1 person is going to be a victim too, which means they're going to make me the perpetrator. We're going to end up blaming one another and both feeling victimized. I mean, that's not a winning partnership for either one of us.
No.
When you get into zone 2, we're going to be competing. So we're going to say, well, we're working together, but we're always trying to one up one another and prove that we're, a little bit better. But our pride won't allow us to acknowledge that's what we're doing. So we have to hide that, even though it's obvious. Again, not a super great partnership. And you see that a lot in the mainstream world, right?
Yes.
You
And,
feel,
and what
yeah,
we realized was it doesn't matter how many times you say the word collaborating, doesn't mean you're doing it.
that's right. That's right. Oh my gosh, I had so many people say they wanted to collaborate and just like, oh my God, I want to collaborate. It's all I want to do is collaborate. And then they would go off and do a bunch of things on their own and come back and say, look what I did. And you go, what? What? That's not collaborate. And I did that myself.
Mhm.
Certainly there were phases when I did that myself. And it was when I started to realize like, oh, this is not collaboration. I really want to collaborate. And invite people in to let's really do this. Like, let's be really conscious about it. Right. And it was during times like that that it would be so clear that people would say, oh yeah, yeah. And then boom, off they go to do their zone 2, I'm in charge, I'm in control, dance. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sliding the pieces around.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Being
it was really
around.
exactly, and when we got into zone 3 and we could maintain that, consistently, that was when partnerships started to happen because we were able to be curious, because we were able to really not just listen, like, most people are like, "Oh, I'm a great listener," but are you hearing what the other person is saying? Do you know what it is that's really in their hearts? Like what it is they really want to see in the world and how they feel about the way things currently are? Until we really have an understanding of what the other person's experience is, then we can't be in partnership, right? Because we're still reacting using those patterns that we have from, well, just from family and society.
Yeah, and in zone 3, using the intuition, that's when we really started consistently holding ourselves accountable.
Mhm.
That's when if things were feeling off energetically, or you have that hit where something's not right here, you didn't point fingers at anybody. The first thing you did was you went within. Okay, what's
Mm.
going on here?
Yeah.
Why am I feeling uneasy?
Mhm.
You start asking yourself the question, and it takes courage to do that.
Yeah.
And it takes courage to sit there and allow yourself to be curious,
Mhm.
not only asking the questions to you, but then asking the questions to the people that you're partnering with.
Right.
Whether it be a friendship, a love relationship, or a business partnership.
Right.
The questions are all the same. The courage needs to be there for you to allow yourself the curiosity, which
Yeah.
is something that is not supported
Right.
in the mainstream.
Right. And it popped into my head too, partnership with your children.
Oh
You
gosh, yes.
know, that's so important. And it doesn't mean it's not part because we're redefining partnership here. So what we're really talking about is having partnership where you're both wanting to understand one another's perspective and work together to create what works for both of you, right? So that what it is that, when you get down to it, I once brought together some parents and a kid who weren't talking to one another and hadn't been talking, living in the same house and hadn't been talking for, I guess, a couple of months. And we came together and I had everybody write down what it is that they wanted to come out of the session. And every single person said, I want peace.
Mm.
Right? So everybody actually wanted the same outcome. So they'd been living in the same house, suffering, each person suffering and not being able to talk to one another. And yet it took one question to find out, but we all want the same things.
Mhm.
Right? So how do we go about creating that shared outcome together? Because if each of us has a separate agenda that we're trying to force on one another, peace is not going to be the result.
No, never. It will never be the result.
Never. Never. And I feel like that's a mic drop moment. Boom.
Yeah, I was.
Uh,
Yeah, that's a whoo. Let that one sit in for a little bit. Wow. Breathe that one in. Whew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The competition that's happening, the victimization in zone 1 and the competition in zone 2 are never going to result in us feeling like we have truly supportive partnerships. And I'm using the word partnership in place of relationship, because a relationship really can be, you know, something happening at the surface level.
Yeah.
It can be. I'm not saying it always is, but I'm just saying I'm using partnership to say we really want to get to know one another and work towards shared win-win outcomes and
Mhm.
experiences, even more importantly.
Yeah. And it's funny because we know quite a few people that declare they hate change. I have one getting ready to head off to school, which is why she's one of the reasons she's struggling so much is she hates change.
Mhm.
And what we need to understand and embrace is, in these partnerships, partnership with ourselves, with others, we're constantly changing and evolving.
Yeah,
Because if we're not, it's all just bullshit and bumper stickers.
that's right. That's right. And you know, you reminded me, we had a class Monday night, and this group of students has been together for about a year now, um, once a week for a year. So there's a close relationship, and everybody just really, all of us just love being there and and having that time together. And so when this group first came in, when we would start talking about something, like I would say the word business, and people would just like, yeah, yeah, just business, like, we don't know about business. And, you know, and I would say, look, business is how our world functions. Business is like your post office guy, like walking across your lawn to put mail in your box. Like, that's business. It's not scary. It's when you go to the grocery store, you're conducting business. It's everywhere around us. We need to be comfortable with it if we want to navigate this world in a really purposeful and prosperous way. And you can say that all you want, but until we feel comfortable in our skin and really know, like, have the confidence to know that we can show up and we can say, I don't understand that. Could you explain it to me, please? Without shame, without feeling, oh, I should be different than I am, or I have to pretend to be different than I am. You know, until you get to that place, you really have no choice but to hope you can disappear into the wall when somebody says something and you feel like you don't know anything about it. So here it was, like, almost a year later, and I brought up something and I was like, we were thinking about switching some things up. And, you know, this is co creative. So let's talk about it. And, you know, every single person shared their truth. You know, everything from, well, I have mixed feelings because I love the way things are, but I also love this. And it was a true, I'm getting goosebumps just remembering. It was a true co-creative experience where everyone trusted one another and themselves to be able to share their truth. So we had a really meaningful conversation. We talked about possibilities, and then we said, okay, we planted some seeds. Let's, you know, sit with that and we'll talk about it again next week. And afterwards, Judy and I were talking about it and just saying the growth, the evolution of, you know, us as individuals and also as a group is just tremendous. It's life changing to be able to have these conversations about what if, and not a single person there shut down, or because they didn't get scared, right? Their fear didn't so overwhelm them that they ended up in zone one feeling like they had to protect themselves.
Yeah, and everybody, I mean, they were how does that feel?
Mhm.
How does that feel to me? Okay, well, so selfishly, one person even said, selfishly, I really like everything the way it is right now.
Mhm.
And I'm also excited about doing some different things,
Right.
and a year ago, 6 months ago, I don't know that we would have been there
No.
because everybody would have been sitting and waiting to see, well, I'm going to wait and see what she says. And I'm going to wait and
Right.
see what she says. And then I guess I'll just go with the consensus.
Right, right, exactly. And the consensus, you know, the consensus is usually kind of, well, it's usually bumper stickers and bullshit,
Yep.
because usually it's formed by zone two people who have the confidence to speak up. And because they have the confidence to speak up and they do it in kind of the energy is almost daring, you know, it's like, I'm putting this out there and I dare you to question it, because that's how the battleground works. And so the other people there, if they haven't learned or developed into that place of kind of being a little more angry than scared, um, then they don't want to question that because they don't want conflict. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Which
And,
means our bullies are running our world.
yes, and we like to have a world full of specialists, and I know everything there is to know about this topic. So they come through as the authority, and people are like, well, yeah, okay, they know more about it than me. And what we're finding out more and more every day, and admitting and wrapping our hands around and opening our hearts to, is that we don't know everything. It doesn't matter how much you study a topic, it doesn't matter. We don't know everything, we don't have all the information.
Mm-mm.
That's why checking in with yourself and asking how things feel to you, what is true to you, is key
Yeah.
to developing, this foundation of a peaceful partnership, a peaceful relationship with yourself, a peaceful relationship with everybody else you come in contact with.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And one of the things you talk about um, quite a lot is that partnership between ego and soul,
Mhm.
right? So this idea that we can really have, our higher self, however you think about our different dimensions, even a partnership between left brain and right brain,
Mhm.
right? The fact that we can see the context, we can see the symbolism, and we can also work with the details, and kind of the strategy. And that the more integrated those two sides are, the better our experience and the more holistic, frankly, the meaning of the word, the more holistic our approach to things is if we're using more perspectives, looking at things using more of our tools and resources.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't have to be an either or.
Mm-mm.
As long as we're having this human experience, we're going to travel through all four zones.
Right.
It's just the way it is. When we don't need to travel through those other, the battlefield from time to time, it's because we've checked out and we're done here.
Yeah.
And I'm in no hurry.
No, no, you better not be. We just got this rocking and rolling.
Oh, no hurry. I'm learning my lessons. And grace is a big thing.
Mhm.
Giving yourself grace, giving other people grace, because this is all new.
Yeah.
We've all been, socially programmed. They're universal programs that we were born into.
Yeah.
So as we're on this journey of discovery, we need to give ourselves grace, and in doing that, we give other people grace.
Yeah.
Because grace isn't the answer. Grace is the path to healing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um, wow. Yeah. Like, why are you laughing?
It's laughing at your face. You were like, that's some pretty big shit right there.
I know. I was kind of going like, okay, I think, what else is there to say? Like, go about your day. Cause you know what? That is key to partnerships. It's to give yourself grace. And so all the other words like trust and respect and kindness and all those things, it's like practice grace, give yourself grace, like realize that this human experience is challenging and that we're only aware of about 10% of what's driving our behaviors at any given moment, right? So 90% of it's a mystery. And that's true for everybody.
Mhm.
So again, recognizing like, yeah, I don't know. I could ask, I can focus on something and I can get an answer to that question by going inside, and life will answer me. My subconscious mind, my higher self, will find a way to answer me. Part of the question is like, how important is it to know that if I can just stay in the present moment and give myself and whoever I'm interacting with, my partner, compassion, grace, right? And I think I use the word compassion because there was a time when grace was a mystery word to me. Like, of course, I heard the grace, but I had
Mhm.
never practiced it. So I didn't know what that meant. And I think compassion was a more approachable word to me, even though I didn't practice that either.
It
So,
was
so
more.
I just, Yeah, it was like, "Oh, compassion, sure. Yeah, I know about that." You know? Yeah, so what's your point?
Right.
What have you done for me today? It's I wasn't I wasn't, I wasn't any more, like, pushy or bullyish, toward other people than I was myself, and the truth is that inside it was a war zone.
Yeah.
I was a hard taskmaster.
Mhm.
Um, the ego was, and it was impossible to impress. Oh, and Harley says, the concept of grace is new to me, and what a gift it is. Yes. Amen, Harley.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for the comment. It always makes us so excited when we get comments to know what's landing, what's helpful. And when you have like that would be inspiration. When
Mhm.
you get the inspiration to share something with us, that really is meaningful. So thank you.
Yes, we appreciate that very, very much.
Mhm.
I don't know. I feel like, yes, we are running out of time. We are out of time, actually. So, if you enjoy the information that we're sharing here and you would like to help us get it out to a larger audience, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. You can find us at masterfulu.com, www.masterfulu.com. And I don't know. I have this energy flowing through me. Yes, get your map at www.masterfulu.com/get-your-map. Uh, I don't know. Oh, look at that. Cece is on it. We got 3 levels of engagement. Kris, would you like to take that?
Sure. I mean, once you get your map, you can listen to this show to support you in going through that. We also have the Taste of Peace workshops, which are the second Tuesday and second Wednesday of each month. You can see that on the.
Monday.
Oh, thank
Second
you.
Monday in the evening.
Monday and Tuesday. Yeah, I always want to say Tuesday and Wednesday. Thank you. And then we have our Own Your Experience. Own Your Experience, actually, and we're about to kick off Own Your Influence. For those of you who are wanting to express yourself in the business realm out there, whether it's as a healer or a consultant or a coach, um, somebody who really has a vision for what you'd like to put in the world to make the world a better place, and you'd like to create win-win outcomes from that. With Own Your Influence, we're actually going to walk you through the process of putting those tracks down and making it happen. Not many people know I actually have a business background. I have an MBA, and I consulted for over 20 years around the country, and I'm now taking the business experience and the consulting and business experience and integrating it. Right, so here we are talking about, boy, if you have this side and that side, and integrating it with that intuitive, inspired, um, you know, graceful part, and we're creating whole new opportunities together.
Heart-centered work. Yes.
Hmm.
Heart forward.
Yeah.
And a lot of us heart forward people out there doing our best to put the work out. Um, we struggle. We struggle. And Own Your Influence is really I'm looking forward to it, is gonna help us figure out how to function in this world when we're coming from a different perspective,
Yeah.
coming from a heart-centered space, putting people first over profit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting. When people learn that when we're at peace, when we have peace of mind, it's easy to see our purpose. And when we see our purpose and we act on that purpose from that place of peace, prosperity happens naturally.
Mhm.
And we've all been living in a paradigm that said, once you get what you need, then you will feel satisfied, not fulfilled, which is a purpose thing, but you'll feel satisfied and safe because you have what you need. And then peace will be, the final result of that. But it's backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or upside down.
Upside down. I like
Yeah.
upside down. So
Yeah.
we're excited about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And Cece, thank you for keeping us on point and
Mhm.
reminding us to promote things that are coming up.
Yeah.
And I think our transmission is complete.
Yes, this transmission is complete.
Thank you for joining us on the Peaceful Empowerment Work Show, and we will see you next week.
Excellent. Thank you, Judy.
Thank you, Kris. Thank you, Cece.